plant friends, welcome back to my channel, Planty Princess 92. My name is Ashley, and here with me I have a holiday cactus. So in today's video, I wanted to do holiday cacti care tips along with how to differentiate the 3 different types of holiday cacti. So as we all know, there are Easter cacti, Thanksgiving cacti, and Christmas cacti. I think the most popular is the Christmas cacti because that's when they are mostly sold around the local grocery stores and hardware stores, and they're very, very popular during that time. Now, what is actually normally sold as a Christmas cacti isn't the actual Christmas cacti. For some reason, the Thanksgiving cactus often gets sold and mislabeled as the Christmas cactus. Now, before we get into care tips, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the cacti. They are actually not cactus at all. They are all epiphytes native to Brazil. The Thanksgiving cactus and the Christmas cactus are native to Brazil's tropical rainforests, and the Easter cactus is native to Brazil's natural forests. So let's get into the ways to differentiate these 3 types of cactus. Here with me I have the Thanksgiving cactus. Unfortunately, that is the only one I have in person. So as I'm going through, I will pop up some pictures to show you guys the 3 altogether. There are 3 easy ways to differentiate these cactuses. There are 3 easy ways to differentiate these cacti, and they are leaf shape, the time of year they bloom, and their flowers. So first, let's get into leaf shape. Now, all 3 of these cactuses, I did it again, all 3 of these cacti have segmented stems that are what's made up of their leaves. And the Thanksgiving cacti, which is what I have here, all have more broad, and they're all flattened leaves as well. So the Thanksgiving cacti have more broad leaves with serrated teeth-like edges. Now what that looks like is they have real pointy tips. Let me get one over here. This one is pretty broad. So as you see here, the leaf is really broad, and it has the serrated edges that come to a point as if it is a tooth. And all the leaves, even when they get thinner, although they are all more broad than the other cacti, they all have that serrated tooth point to them. So now we will talk about the Christmas cactus. The Christmas cactus have the same form, the same shape, but instead of the serrated tooth-like tip, they're more round and more smooth. They're also smaller than the Thanksgiving cacti. Last but not least, we have the Easter cactus, and those leaves are more like, they sort of look like a cloud, like they're very scalloped and round in shape, and the scallops kind of go around the whole leaf. So that's a really easy way to tell the difference between these cacti is with their leaf shapes. Second easy way is bloom time. Obviously, that's where they get their names from. So the Thanksgiving cactus, which is what I have here, blooms in late fall. The Christmas cactus blooms in early winter, and the Easter cactus blooms in mid-spring. Now, although the Thanksgiving cactus and the Christmas cactus bloom in fall and winter, if you're lucky and provided the right care needs, they also are able to give you a second bloom near spring. So that's a cool little fact there about those 2 types of cactus, of holiday cactus. So now that we have the bloom time and the leaves, the last easy way to tell these cacti apart are their flowers. So although this is a way to differentiate them, the Thanksgiving and Christmas cactus blooms are somewhat similar. They are more tuberous like flowers. So when you come to the flower, if it's a tuberous like flower, you'll know it's either a Christmas cactus or a Thanksgiving cactus. So then you narrow down by checking out the leaves. But the Easter cactus is more like a daisy flower. So that's how you know for sure if you have an Easter cactus, you know, by the cloud scallop-shaped leaves, but also by the daisy-like bloom that the Easter cactus produces. So now that we have how to tell these three cacti apart, let's get into their care needs. The care for all three types of holiday cacti is relatively the same. The only thing that changes is the cycle of the care. So for instance, when it's their growing season, we're going to care for them the same way as we would, and then start pushing them into bloom just at different times of the year, given when they are meant to bloom. Thanksgiving in late fall, Christmas in early winter, and spring and Easter in mid-spring. So the only thing that changes is when the cycle is going through, like where the cycle, what point of the cycle you're in at what point of year, if that makes any sense. So now, as I mentioned before, although these are called cacti, they are actually epiphytes. So unlike desert cacti, they are not drought tolerant whatsoever. So that brings us to the first big care tip is water. So during the growing season, you never want to let your cacti dry out. When it's dry to the touch, that's when you want to go ahead and water it. But you also don't want to let it sit in any water because it will quickly develop root rot. I would go ahead and give it a nice thorough watering and then let it drain out through the bottom. Or if you bottom water, that is also very helpful for this type of plant. Go ahead and fill it up, let it soak up the water it needs, and then take it out of the dish and place it back in the spot where it belongs. Next, we have humidity. Now, because this is actually an epiphyte, it actually gets most of its moisture through the air, through the humidity. So this is especially important for the Thanksgiving and Christmas cactus since they are native to the tropical rainforest, but all three do like average to higher humidity. They will do fine in average humidity, but they will benefit better from a higher humidity, that is for sure. The soil requirements for this particular plant, drainage is extremely important because they are epiphytes. Their roots will rot very quickly if left sitting in water. They would prefer a very light, chunky, airy mix. Even mixing in a little bit of sand would be good for this plant because it does also want something that retains a lot of moisture, being that it is not a drought tolerant plant, and drainage holes are very important as well. I would fertilize this plant with a balanced fertilizer like a 10-10-10 or 20-20-20 if you're going the synthetic route twice a month during the growing season. I use Newt and Liquidirt to fertilize all my plants. So I do fertilize year round during every watering. Because it is all natural and it's not harsh on my plants. But again, if you're going towards that synthetic route, definitely make sure you don't over fertilize because that will push off the bloom time for your holiday cacti. These plants do like very bright but indirect light, and they can even handle some partial shade, and this is during the growing season. So all the way until bloom. So now that we have our care needs for the growing season, let's talk about what this plant requires to bloom. So you kind of almost have to like trick and force this plant into bloom, especially if it's indoors, because naturally it's not provided what it needs to go into bloom indoors. So in its native environment to bloom, it needs cooler temperatures, it needs longer periods of darkness. And that does include artificial lighting, so such as, and when I say artificial lighting, I'm not referring to grow lights. I'm actually referring to house lights. If it's near a window, car lights will disturb that. So if this is not placed in a room where it can have that long period of darkness, you definitely want to move it somewhere where it can when it's time for it to start blooming. The Thanksgiving and Christmas cactus need about 6 weeks of this longer night, shorter days, and cooler temperatures at night to be ready to bloom. cooler temperatures, a fluctuation between 20 degrees between day and night temperatures would be best to help promote bloom for this plant. But as long as the temperature is dropping no lower than 40 degrees at night, you should be good to get this little lady to bloom. Now the Easter cactus, on the other hand, needs a longer period of this fluctuation between light and cool temperatures to bloom. It needs between 8 and 12 weeks. So it does require a longer period in order to bloom. After you start seeing buds on your plant, and they do come from the tip, so right where my thumb is, they come from the tip of these leaves. After the buds appear, you can bring it back out into your warmer temperatures, into your normal daylight, into your normal care schedule. Start watering it again, because you also do want to cut back water and fertilizer while you're trying to get this girl to bloom. So after buds appear, care for it as normal, and you should have beautiful flowers just in time for the holidays. This plant is generally pest and disease free. I haven't had any pests on this plant since I've had it, and I actually haven't read or heard of any significant pests or diseases that this plant could get. Obviously, any plant is prone to get anything at some point, especially if it comes from another plant that it's around. But in general, this plant does kind of stay away from all that stuff, which is really nice. This plant is also very easy to propagate. I would recommend taking a segment of maybe 3 or 4 leaves. Just like when you propagate any plant, you don't want too many leaves, because it will focus more on keeping those leaves alive than growing roots. And all in all, the plant will eventually just die off. So 3 or 4 leaves should be sufficient. I would let it callus over for about a week. Stick it right in soil, and within a few weeks, you should start seeing new growth. This plant is very easy to care for, very easy to propagate, and it has very gorgeous blooms. Thank you guys again for watching. I hope I provided you with a lot of great information on how to tell these 3 holiday cacti types apart, as well as how to care for this beautiful holiday plant. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you're interested in the content I provide. And as always, every plant's a princess. Bye.